Greetings, everyone. This is Shaylin Scott, founder of Book Mecca, and welcome to our breakthrough series with Black authors from across the nation who are breaking barriers and breaking through with stories from all different genres. So today we have a special guest for you, and she is the author of this book right here, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This book has been on my IG timeline, on Facebook timeline. It has been sent and shared so many times. Everyone is talking about this book. If you have not seen it, if you have not read it, go grab it. I got my copy. Make sure you get yours. So we're going to get started and talk to Deesha Philyaw about everything that we can possibly fit into this little amount of time we have on the book, on some of the stories, little teasers for you, and on her as an individual and a person as well. So, without further ado, let me welcome Deesha.
Shaylin, I was just about to tweet out and tell everybody, that we're about to, have our shots in brown liquor. So I was just about to tweet. So give me 1 second. Is that good? You got yours?
Yes.
All right, I got mine. I'm being fancy. I'll show you in 1 second.
We like fancy.
All right, let's see. And I had to get the link so that people could join us. But I have tequila and I have it in let's see here. All right. This is my oldest daughter got me these shot glasses that are made out of Himalayan sea salt.
Ooh.
So with the tequila, very nice.
What?
So, and I'm sorry, you showed me yours. What you sipping? What did you say you're sipping?
This is a bourbon mash and ginger.
Oh, see, anything with ginger, I love. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, then you know what? Since you're sipping, I'll just sip. I won't do it as a shot. So,
all right.
Well, with the sea salt, it's like having, a salt around the rim, but it's all there. So,
love.
I'm second in line. Yeah, this is my first book tour event with tequila.
Love it.
So,
are you tweeting? I'm gonna try.
Wait, you're breaking up a little bit. What did you say?
Hey, y'all hear the tequila sponsors, aka? I'm telling all these potential tequila sponsors.
And brown liquor sponsors.
She likes brown and tequila.
Oh, yes, y'all. I do. Okay, my little dog is like, what are we doing? I'm down here waiting to be picked up. Come here. This is Fudgy. She's back. Okay, we're all good now.
Now introduce us to Fudgy.
Fudgy is a 77-year-old lady. And she has separation anxiety. She's a pug. And her brother and litter mate passed away in October. So she is my constant companion, right? We don't do that. Don't kiss me.
That's for... yeah, let me take that offline. That ain't... I already know. I was about to say something too much here. That's too loud. All right, viewers. So as you can see, we have already gotten comfy. We already have the brown liquor flowing.
Our beverages, yes.
Yes, we are ready to go. And before I even kind of dig into some of the questions, I just want to give you kudos, hats off, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh my God. This week for you?
It's been great. It's been a lot. It's been great. Like I always say like the word surreal because all of this and a pandemic, like it's against that backdrop. So it's like the best year of my life. So I'm just adjusting my light. The best year of my life professionally, and also the scariest year for all of us, at the same time. So it feels like, and it sounds like a cliche, but kind of like a roller coaster, It's an ebb and flow. I'm thankful for all of it, but every day it's like, it's a pandemic. It is like
crazy.
like nothing
Easy.
I've, we've ever experienced. So, so in the midst of that, in some ways, things with the book, it's like a silver lining, but I just, I can't forget what's happening in the larger world. And so I'm thankful when people tell me that not only has the book been a bright spot for me, obviously, but they tell me the book has been a bright spot for them. So
That's
I'm happy
good.
about that. Because that, that reading is one of the things that we can still do safely, you know?
Absolutely.
So, so I've read more and purchased more books this past year than ever. So yeah.
You see my pile.
I see. I
And
see.
and this is just all that I'm showing on the screen is my pile.
Right.
My
I have
kids.
piles, and we won't let you see all of that.
Yes. No, we're gonna keep it right here in the square, y'all. We're not gonna go any
Yes.
further than this.
We had to
But
do our adjustments before. Like, don't look original
yes.
over
Oh
here.
my God, yes. So I definitely want to let our viewers know for the congratulations that we're talking about. She was selected as a finalist for the 2021 Penn Faulkner Award for fiction. She was also, this is the same week, y'all, same week, also a finalist for the LA Times Book Prize. And was it in the last month? Your book has been picked up for a series on HBO. So y'all keep out, keep a
Yes.
lookout. It's
Yes.
coming.
Shout out to HBO Max and Tessa Thompson. Yes.
That is going to be something else. I can't wait.
Same. I'm excited. I'm excited.
So, for those of you who do not know who Deesha Philyaw is, she's an American author, a columnist, a public speaker. She my friend in my
Yes.
head. Hopefully later, but all that, my drink friend. She's
Drinking buddy.
also, yes, she's also been has a debut short story collection, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. And this is a collection of 9 stories of 4 generations of characters grappling with who they are, who they want to be in the world, caught in between church's double standards and their own needs and passions. It is, it's a lot.
It's a little
It's a,
extra.
without telling the book, I keep on to tell the book, but they're short stories. So you really have to read the short stories to see what I'm talking about. So that's a hint for y'all. Go get the book. Go get the
Thank
book.
you. Thank you.
So let's get started on some of these questions. Some of the
Okay.
themes that you
I'm ready.
cover is
Okay.
daddy issues, toxic
Mm.
mom relationships,
Yes.
troubling relationship, love, love. You went from here to here to here to here, all over the place,
Yes.
but it all made sense together. What was your inspiration from for this book in particular?
So I I don't I never consciously said until the when I knew I was putting together a collection, but over the 20 years that I've been writing, I've been writing towards this moment. But I really thought of myself as when I had to sort of describe at some point what do I write about? And I would say I write about dissatisfied women. And I was
Mm,
because I was, dissatisfied when I first started writing about 20 years ago, but I didn't feel comfortable writing my own dissatisfaction as nonfiction. So I gave it to these women who are products of my imagination, but they are rooted in a lot of memory and nostalgia of the women I knew when I was growing up, women inside the church and women outside the church, and just being really fascinated with their lives and curious about them because, as Black girls, we look at Black women to see what's possible.
mm-hmm.
So I was living in Pittsburgh when I first started writing. And I wouldn't say I was necessarily homesick for Jacksonville in particular, but just that time in my life where things were simpler and that still felt like home. And Pittsburgh, I've been here since 97, but it's never really felt like home. So when I would, kind of get lost in my memories and that nostalgia, and then blending it into my imagination, it was those women who I wrote kind of my curiosity about them, and who they were, who they wanted to be, um, and how they navigated the church's constrictions and binaries. The church is very black and white, either or, this or that, heaven or hell, good or bad. And
Mm-hmm.
most of us just don't live black and white lives. And so how did they navigate? How did they get free of that? Um, and so I didn't know all that that's what I was doing. Now
Yeah.
in retrospect, I can reflect on it. But at the time, I was dissatisfied. I wanted to write. Writing was escape for me. It was entertainment. And these are the women who lived in my imagination.
Now, I'm not gonna ask you what church you went to,
Oh, I
because
could
I'm
tell
sure.
you.
Oh,
I
what church was it?
plural. So the first church I ever went to was St. Stephen's AME. And then there was a little church around the corner from my house, but I've forgotten the name of it, but it was a Baptist church. And then the last church I went to that I belonged to before I went to college was Abyssinia Missionary Baptist Church in Jackson. These are
Mhm.
all in Jacksonville. And but the last church I was a member of here in Pittsburgh was an Episcopal church. And so I've been, all over. And then growing up, you would go to other people's churches. So I've been in Pentecostal and Kojic and you name it. I've
Everywhere.
been there everywhere. Yeah.
So if y'all saw Deesha at church and you get triggered by one of these stories, that's your conscious talking. That's not us. We're not talking to you. That's your conscious.
People are like, how did you know? Did you read my journal? Were you at my church? It's like,
See?
it's different places, different faces, but the stories are the same. So
See, everybody knows somebody.
Saints
We even have
Latanya
somebody got some say, hey,
in
Latanya.
Jacksonville. Okay. Yeah.
Everybody popping in. Now,
Mhm.
writing this about the secret lives of church ladies, did you have some pushback from members of clergy or some who maybe just didn't like what you were writing? Did you get any backlash from it?
I haven't. That doesn't mean there hasn't been any, but no one has said that to me. But the clergy I have heard from have all embraced the book. And in
Mm,
fact, Stark, oh my gosh, it's a homegirl in the comments already. Um, Stark is just up the
there
road
you go.
from I had a black woman pastor friend who, when I was, when the book hadn't come out yet, she said, if you're creating like a book club kit or something like that, can
Mm,
you create something that will allow me to make it easy for pastors to teach with this book? So that's why if you go to my Instagram page, which is just my name, and there's a link in my bio, you got to scroll down past a lot of stuff, but there are two book club kits, and one is for church groups. And so it has the same questions and things, discussion questions, as the other one. And it has an additional set of questions for church people. Like I always say, I know enough Bible to be dangerous. Like, so I
mm.
know, the
Yeah.
little extra things that they
Throw
can
that same
throw your name
scripture out.
on. And so I love both of the book kits, but that is the difference. That one, well, that's one difference. The church one has those additional questions. The church one also does not have the playlist. Like I didn't think the bad bitch
Yeah.
playlist didn't
Yeah,
be,
yeah, yeah. That's a little
but
extra. That's a little,
they both have recipes and a Q&A and real cute images that the design team that I hired, a black woman owned, two black women design team, the Poche group. They
okay,
did
shout out.
great images that went with the stories. And so the kits are beautiful. They really are.
I've loved it. I've already downloaded the
Oh,
recipe for the
good.
peach
Okay.
cobbler.
Yes.
I will share that with all of you later.
Yes.
I will
Oh,
share that peach cobbler.
and I forgot we were asking about clergy. And then there was a group of black women clergy who reached out and said, will you come to our book club? And I was like, absolutely. And, they're very progressive. So there was nothing in this book that shocked them. And they embraced the book. So, I mean, I'm sure there are people who, it's the book's not for them, and that's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine. But I hope that the book will spark a conversation, even among people who aren't, in love with the content. I think it raises questions, though, that people in church should contend with. So I hope that they would engage with it, even if it, critically. That's cool.
Absolutely. Now, someone, hey, Tiara, she says she loves the title, very appealing, great title, which is one of the reasons that I kept seeing in social media. People were interested in the book because of the title. They wanted to
Yeah.
see what the secrets
What are the
were.
secrets? Right.
Yes. So, how did you get to that title? Was it like,
I my agent and I go back and forth. We don't remember which of us came up with it. So I'm happy to share credit with her. She's great. It was her idea that I write this collection. But I can't remember who came up with it, but there was never any other title. That's just the one that, that felt right.
well, I love it. It definitely feels right. And I'm going to tell you guys now, when you read this, it almost feels like you're reading and kind of seeing into someone's little lives and their diaries and secrets, but just enough to get you hooked.
Yeah.
Just enough. You don't dig so deep where you're lost in it, which is what I found really interesting about each of your stories. They're very unique, each one, but they're also you don't get lost in the act of what the character is doing. The character is developed enough to where you fall in love with the characters in each one of the stories. How did you get to that
Thank
point?
you.
Was that pulled from someone that you saw, or was that modeled after a particular writer that you like?
I think it was not, a person in particular, but just having been immersed in the lives of Black women, as I said, in and out of the church.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by my mother and my grandmother, so I was always around older women. And you know how we're taught to be seen and not heard. So I was always ear hustling. I knew everybody's business.
Mm, yeah.
And if you're quiet, you hear things because then they forget you're there. And so, I had all of that as part of my memories. So not just my family's stories, but other people's stories. My mother and my grandmother also, this just occurred to me. People don't do this as much now because texting, but they
Mm-hmm.
would be on the phone for hours talking about somebody's business.
The
Either
long cord phone.
somebody's telling them who did what to whom, or they're then telling somebody else's business. And I was privy to all of these grown women's stories. And then, of course, now I'm a grown woman. And so I have my own stories as well. And so I think it was less about particular people and, sort of patterning things after them. But when it was time to write somebody's voice or write a conversation or their thoughts, I would, try and embody them as much as I could and just get,
Mm-hmm.
right up close. I especially love writing dialogue. Like a lot of things for me, can start with dialogue because I can hear them talking. And then it's like, you can build the story and build the characters from that. But I think it's that longing, not so much homesickness, but more longing.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother passed away. And my mother passed away. Like I can't hear their voices anymore, but they're still with me, and they come through in these stories. And then there are like certain kernels of people and situations that then I can build on. So, like as I told you this before we went live, that I have 4 half sisters, just like in Dear Sister. There are 5 of them. There are 5 of us, but out of respect for my sisters, I would never like take one of them and like turn her into a character,
Mm-hmm.
just out of respect for their privacy. Um, but they're little things like Tashita, who is the wild sister. She's a nurse. So
Tasheda.
one of my sisters is a nurse, but she's nothing like Tashita. Like she's like the opposite of Tashita. So it's like drawing on those little things where you kind of pay homage. And the kernel of that story that's true is that we did not connect with our 5th sister until our father died. And our
Mm.
step, I guess she would be our step grandmother, our stepmom's mother. we were sitting around and she was like, y'all got another sister. Did you tell her about daddy died? And we're like, we've never met her. Like she was never at grandma's house, and she was like, well, y'all need to find her. So we did. It turned out that our stepsister knew her and had her number. So we called her up, which I don't advise.
Out of the blue?
Yes. Yeah.
And she picked up?
Yeah. Right. Usually I don't answer a strange number, but she answered.
Oh no, we lost her. I'm sure she'll be coming back, guys. No worries. In the meantime, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the book. Here we go. She's back.
Okay, we back. Oh, yeah. All of a sudden it went.
Okay, we got you.
Okay. All right.
I was about to tell him all your secrets.
So I was, saying that like my sisters all live down in Jacksonville still, and I'm in Pittsburgh. And so over time, the four of them did connect. And then I got to meet her 2019. And that was the first time we were all together ever. And so the book imagines the story imagines. See, this is why I don't want you up here. The story imagines these relationships between the sisters that I didn't have with them. Like one of my sisters, our mothers raised us close like sisters. The other two, they always lived somewhere else. And I didn't get to really know them until our father died. But they're full sisters. So they had a relationship with each other. Then my other sister and I, we had a relationship because we were raised close. But in the story, they all had a relationship. And I had fun, even though it's a relationship where there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of fighting, because that's sisters, right? I just imagined and created relationships that I didn't have. And so people, sometimes talk about, oh, I got this story to tell, but I don't want to tell it. I'll just pretend like it's fiction. But usually our real lives just aren't that interesting by themselves. And so fiction is an opportunity to, add a little more drama, add a little more flavor, add some twists and turns.
And kind of speaking of the sisters, Tashida, in one of her stories called Dear Sister, in her book here, you will fall in love with Tashida. You wrote there. You wrote it there, says she punctuated every word with a clap. Y'all know who that is. Everybody knows that sister. She got something to say.
Yes. I really thought that the editor was going to edit some of the stuff that I had her saying, because she got a raunchy mouth. They didn't. They let me keep it. Oh,
every time she talked, I threw my book. I was like, get out of here. Get out of here.
She's a mess. There are guys that have DM'd me like, what's Tashida's number?
I believe
you would most like to date Tashida.
Yes, definitely Tashida. There are some stories. You would think 9 stories you would have a favorite. I don't really have a favorite. Do you have a favorite?
People always say Peach Cobbler is their favorite.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
I think I'm a tie between Peach Cobbler and How to Make Love to a Physicist.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of fun writing that one, especially.
How to Make Love to a Physicist. The title alone of that short story. I'm going to tell you a secret of mine. The title made me wait till the end. I read every other story.
I was going to be boring.
No, because I said, oh, this is something. I don't know what's going on with the physicist. I don't know a physicist. How does she know one? So I left it to the end. I said, I'm going to leave this. Let me read around and see what's Bye-bye.
That was the cherry on top.
Yes, it was. There are quite a few of the stories in there. And like I mentioned, some of your characters, they are someone that you know. They kind of are reminiscent of someone that you know. Were there any of the characters that were harder to write, or any of the stories harder to write than others?
The one I had the most, well, let me think about that. There were 2 that I want to mention. When Eddie Levert Comes.
Oh.
It was like, how do I wasn't sure it was a story
Hmm.
because it was like it because there's a lot of looking at the main character's childhood, and then now she's taking care of her mother, and so it's like, what is the moment where I couldn't figure out what the moment, the turning point, or whatever you want to call it for the story. I knew how I thought it should end. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to get there though, so
Hmm.
it took me some time to figure it out. So then I got the moment, and even to this day it just feels like, is that a story? It
Yeah.
stands out to me from the others. Maybe it's the most quiet story in the collection. Maybe that's why it feels a little not unfinished. It just like, I'm just, with a gymnast, when they say you nail the landing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one where I'm not so sure about that. And then Peach Cobbler, um it was the biggest revision that I did.
Really?
Initially, that ending, the story took Olivia and Trevor into adulthood, as opposed to
Okay.
now it ends with them as teenagers. And so I had it where, after she stopped tutoring him, that was the end of that section. And then the next section was the fast forward, they're in their mid 30s, and she has her own bakery, and he comes in and he tells her that he found out the secret. So he's been carrying this secret too, about their
Hmm.
parents. And she takes him back because it's closing time. She takes him back in the kitchen, and they bake a peach cobbler together, and they have sex, and it's great, right? And then nobody liked that ending. My friends who read stuff for me, nobody liked it. They said it just didn't ring true. And I thought it was great. And I mean, maybe the scene, I think I was in love with the scene,
Mm-hmm.
great sex scene, but nobody felt that it was a fitting end to the story that we had just
Yeah.
read, that it, like, almost like it was tacked on. So
That
I
was
said, all right, if I gotta end this differently, I gotta go back in the story and figure some things out. And so what I really focused on was the mother daughter relationship. So I had to go back and explore that. I added a couple more, maybe like, and maybe expanded the scenes with them, maybe added a new one. And then the end scene, that's where that was kind of the moment, the reckoning really between those two. And that's how I chose to end it. That wasn't there initially.
okay.
And so I also had to go in and revise the relationship with her and Trevor. Because initially it was like, he was looking at her, checking her out, and she was like, boy, don't play, even though she had a crush on him. And
Mm.
that's how it was originally. And then she didn't see him again until they were in their 30s. But now I went back in and actually had them have sex. And so that relationship, you know, created more complications for her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for all of you out there who have not read the book, you should. But I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek into just the titles of the short stories. You have Eula, you have Not Daniel. That's a good one. Dear Sister, Peach Cobbler, Snowfall, How to Make Love to a Physicist, JL. Am I saying it right? JL? Yeah.
Yael
JL.
in the Hebrew.
Okay. Instructions for Married Christian Husbands, When Eddie Levert Comes. Those are the ones you're going to want to read every one again. You see how many notes I have on this little book. That's how many. It has been read multiple times. It has. But one
Studied
thing,
and repeated.
right, one thing I kind of saw through there, throughout each of the stories, was a common theme of women and family dynamics, period. It almost seemed as if it kind of felt as if they were all related somehow, like they all could have been related, just each a different glimpse into each family member's life and what they're going through at a certain time. Was that on purpose?
Initially I thought that I would connect the stories with a church, that there would be like a church that's mentioned in
Mm,
every story. But then that got a little confusing, and I was like, no, because this book isn't really about the church, right? Like, I want to
Mhm.
be clear. Like, I didn't sit down and say, you know what, these are the issues I have with the church. Let me write some stories. It was focusing on the women first. These are these are things that women struggle with, Black women struggle with, and a lot of it is in response to what the church teaches and how that's permeated our culture. So even if you don't even go to church anymore, you're still grappling with this. I was having a conversation with some folks on Twitter just this week, and we were talking about people getting upset because you don't wear slips or stockings anymore.
Oh my goodness.
And so, so even if you don't go to church, like that expectation, your mother or somebody is still going, because you walking around bare
Look at
leg,
you.
and I can see your
I'll
panty
just
lines,
look
and
at you. Showing the world what you got.
or girdles. We were having that conversation, and girdles are it. That's in How to Make Love to a Physicist, because she dares to go to church with her stomach hanging out. You know.
Ooh.
So that's a small one. That's a small thing, but the influence permeates our culture, and so there's different ways that we have to. Some of us choose to, and some of us, it works. But for those of us where that doesn't fit anymore, there's some unlearning that happens, and it's not always easy. And so those
Mhm.
stories that I wanted to tell, and so I think the common thread, the familiarity is all of us are trying to get free of something, you
Yeah.
know, all of us, it's just part of growing up. We don't aren't necessarily who our parents wanted us to be, and so that
Mhm.
process. So I think that's some of the familiarity that you might sense.
Oh, Fudgy. We're gonna have to give Fudgy his own mic.
But you need some call. You need some call syrup. It's
Fudgy
chronic.
need
Like, it's
some of this
nothing.
right here. He need a little bit of the brown, maybe.
You want a little hot toddy?
Yeah, he need a
Oh,
little bit.
oh, you froze, or did I freeze? I can't tell if you froze or I.
Are we back?
Yes, it looked like you froze, but
We
maybe I
back.
froze. I don't
Okay.
know.
Right. I think we both froze. I don't know what happened. But we're back. I
We're
was just saying I saw a documentary on PBS about the Black church and the influence of it across all
Yes,
different areas of our lives, period, honestly. And one of the notions that it kind of brought up was this, one of your stories kind of touch on it in Eula, this notion of waiting for their Boaz, trying to find this person that you
hmm
should be with or that is
yeah,
fits in with who you are supposed to be as a
yes.
woman.
hmm
The dating world now is something different. I can definitely say that.
I know.
It is something different for
Yeah.
sure. You got any advice for the dating people out there who are looking for their Boaz?
Listen, so shout out to Henry Louis Gates on that series. There's also a companion book called The Black Church, which I had the pleasure of reading. So it's a really, really good book. Um, but I mean, it's a cesspool. Dating is truly a cesspool, I have to say. And then we're in a pandemic. And I was just telling
Yes.
somebody that, if I can be candid, like it used to be, like you date someone, you just got to build enough trust to like, do I want to go out with you? Or, if it's a friends with benefit situation, are you safe? That kind of thing. But now, even if it's something casual, it's like, you could wipe out my whole family. Do I trust
The
you?
Rona.
So
Do you
how do
got the Rona?
are you making good choices in this pandemic? Are you honest about what you're doing? So it just ratcheted up the stakes so much. So something that was already difficult, something that was already hard, and I'll say here in Pittsburgh, I don't know if it's how it is in other places, but dating here is
Hard.
it's. But then you add that pandemic on top of it, and then you know I think one of the things that people struggle with is this idea of marriage as like a magic bullet. And
Mm.
as somebody who's been married twice, like, you know, it's not. It really isn't. It's the people in the relationship. And so, if you had messed with you before you got married, you got messed with you once you get married. And I think also there's that pressure, especially on women. But I've also been finding lately, men experience pressure to marry as well, just different pressure, for different reasons. But there's this pressure to get
See,
married.
technology will not let us be great today.
Oh, I'm just talking.
I say technology will not let us be
Oh,
great
okay. I
today.
was just talking. I didn't know
For
if I froze or
whatever
not.
reason, it keeps
Okay.
on us to keep it. It's like normally we have a pretty good time. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
I
all right. But
see.
we're gonna keep it going, y'all.
All right. I see somebody in the chat, Dr. Temple, who is one of my oldest daughter's professor.
Ah,
And
hey,
yeah,
Dr.
her
Temple.
yeah, and writing conferences and retreats are absolutely helpful to me, because I don't have an MFA. I don't have any writing related degree, and I will say that it was not so much the conferences and retreats themselves, but writing in community, and the community of writers that I have really been blessed to be a part of for 20 years now. Um,
Mm,
and so I definitely encourage people to seek out fellowship opportunities, conference opportunities, and be open to learning. I used to focus so much as a new writer, as many of us do, on getting published because that's the thing we
yeah.
think is going to validate us. But I had a Black woman writer give me the best advice. She said, "Stop worrying about getting your writing published and worry about getting better at writing." And so
Mm,
that's one of the things that writing conferences and retreats and workshops can help you do, is to grow as a writer. And so your focus is, publishing is great, don't get me wrong. But it's, how can I get better at this? If this is good, how can I make it better? If it's not good, how can I make it good? And that's something that, those kinds of opportunities can help with.
that's beautiful. Now, there's one thing I kind of see as a trend. I love seeing Black authors. It's almost like it's collective. When I see one, I see it two, and then two, and they're sharing each other's information. I love it. It's beautiful. So in my head, this is just a vision in my head. I see you all just going out to drinks and having a good time. Are you just all together? Like, how does
You
that
know,
come to be?
and I wonder, I mean, I was gonna say, like, how much of it is the pandemic that's kind of forced this kind of close knit, but people are people, and you are who you are going to be. And I think the pandemic, if anything, it shows you more of who, there's less hiding that you can do, right? And so before the pandemic even happened, Kiese Layman, he is what I call a
Oh,
gateway. He's always reaching back and lifting up and bringing the rest of us along with him on this journey, and sharing his privilege and sharing his platform, sharing his power. And for those of us who he's done that for, we're turning around and doing the same thing for other people. So I'm always trying to figure out, like, how can I be of help to someone else? Now that I have this visibility, how can I use it in the ways that Toni Morrison told us to? She said the whole point of
mhm.
power is to empower somebody else. And so I think when you see us, that's what we're trying to do. And we're also holding each other up. We're also affirming each other in an industry that, even with the success and accolades that we get, it's still hard. It's still not affirming. It's still, when 95% of the fiction books published by the biggest houses between 1950 and 2018, 95%, that was white people. you know?
Wow.
And so when you have those kinds of numbers, when we have our peers who are still experiencing, you know, the dealing with white supremacy within the industry, or, you know, differential, getting different advances and things like that, you know, it's like we all we got, you know? And
Mhm,
so if
mhm.
we're saying welcome, and we're doing it, and we're being very public and demonstrative about it, because we want writers to feel like you made it. You know, you worked really hard.
Yeah,
You have a great book. Your ass might be getting kicked in these other ways, but we got you. You know, we're gonna celebrate you. We're gonna, if nobody else does, we got you. And
I
so
love it.
you know, so Kiese did that for me, and then the bookstagrammers, you know,
Shout
like,
out.
well, yes, you know, that whole world. I mean, it was like a little secret. At least it was a secret from me. I didn't know you all were legion like that. And now
Yes,
that
strong.
publishers don't recognize you all and don't reach out the way that they should, we're doubling down now to make sure that, you know, that people know, like, this is why you know our names, because there are these bookstagrammers, black bookstagrammers, who love on us and who celebrate our books and encourage us. So, you know, then you got Donnie Walton and Dontiel Moniz. All of us are from Jacksonville. Coincidence.
What?
And so, of course, they reached out, and I was like, these are my homegirls, right? I didn't even know about them. But Donnie and I
Wow.
went to the same school, junior, senior high school. Didn't we? Were She was in 7th grade, I was in the 12th. We didn't know each other at the time. But the world is small. And so, you know, even if they weren't my homegirls, though, it would be like, you know, I'm showing them love. They've got these great books. You know, how many times can I shout them out? How many opportunities can, oh, you want to interview me? Let's do a roundtable. Let's do a roundtable with me and Donnie and Dontiel and Robert Jones, son of
Mhm.
Ball, who he is
Ooh, killing it.
school of that Kiese Layman school of love, you know, reaching, because he messaged me and was like fanboying my book, and I was like, me? For real? Me?
Yes.
Really? Son of Baldwin? Me? Because I've been admiring him for all these years, you know? And so it's just great. So yes, we just sort of find each other, and social media we have to thank for that, to help us, you know, see each other. But then we do the work of behind the scenes, staying in touch,
Mhm.
celebrating each other, sharing opportunities, and, you know, we and wanting to bring as many people with us as possible. There are writers who treat success and acclaim like pie, like it's going to run out, like it's just so much. It's not pie. For me to celebrate you or another writer takes nothing.
Share.
You know, I just don't see it like that. So, I just did a roundtable with Donnie and Dontiel and Robert, and that's one of the pieces of advice that we shared in that was like, find your people, find your Robert, find your Donnie. You know, find those people who are your crew. You know, and
Mhm.
and be that for somebody else. If you want that relationship, you want that kinship. We call each other cousins. You know, you have to be willing to be that. So, and not everybody is, you know, and that's okay. And that's the other thing too. We try and focus on the positive, right?
Mhm.
Like, who is checking for us? Who is checking for our
Right.
book? You know, because there's gonna be people who, you know, they're not our people, and that's okay.
Oh,
But
yeah.
find your people.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing authors, Black authors, rise, and they're already ready for the occasion. I can't even say rise to the occasion because you are already ready. It's not everyone has seen or know about you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the whole reason the book Mecca started. Is I wanted to bring all of the voices and stories to light as much as possible because
Yeah.
your face should be just as known as Susie Q over here in the
That's right.
movies, singing
That's
the
right.
songs,
Hmm.
because all of the basis for the movies and the songs is writing. It
That's
starts with
it.
writing.
Come on. That is absolutely true. That is the truth.
Because y'all know them, all the ones who singing, that's not their words, right? Y'all know that.
I
Everybody
love
know
a
the songwriter.
singer-songwriter now. I love a singer-songwriter. Woo, I love a singer-songwriter.
But
Yes,
if that's not your strength, don't do that.
that's
Don't do
right.
it.
Somebody will do
I
it.
digress.
Oh, so let me give a little plug. Speaking of singer-songwriters, Donnie Walton's book, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, for anybody who
Ooh,
just loves a good story, but if you like music, it's like a story within a story. The premise is that this journalist is writing an oral history of this iconic rock and roll duo, Opal Jewel, who is this black woman. She's like a foremother of Afro punk, and
okay.
Nev Charles, who's this British guy. So they're this unlikely pair. And so it's the journalist in the story is writing it as an oral history with all these interviews and stuff, but it's all fictitious, but it's so real. And
I
so
love it.
music, so there's stuff in there for the music historians, um, but it's also a story of a woman who's finding herself. Opal, that character is like nothing we've ever seen before, and
Mm.
that is a black woman's imagination. And so,
Send me that.
props to
I want to read
Donnie
that.
Walton.
Send me that. I need that to my already pile of books. I got the
I
some
will
of
text
these I've
it.
read, but
Oh, you know what? I can put it right here in.
there we go. And see, that is one thing about reading. You could never have too many books. Your pile stays tall, it stays growing. And if you're on Instagram or Facebook, all of your screenshots are full of books. I'm not even pretending. Like screenshots of books coming out, books planning to come out in 2022, ideas of books. The struggle is real. The struggle is real, y'all. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I was saying I get a lot of arcs now, so I get to see books in advance, so that's pretty cool. So,
Oh,
but I
that
put
is
the
cool.
title in the private chat. It wouldn't let me do the comments, but for anybody
Okay.
listening, the title of the book is The Final Act of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton.
Okay. And I'll put that out there for y'all so you know what it is too. So I know we are coming up on our time.
Yes,
And I
yes.
didn't even go through the 999,000 questions that I had, but that's
I'm
okay.
good. So whatever you want to ask away.
But that is okay because I want y'all to get the book and read it. Honestly, I can't do it justice, even by answering and asking all the questions about all of the stories that are there, because each of them is so unique, and you're going to get different snippets from it and different things that you enjoy more than others. There was one I want to catch. Let me see if I can find it here. Ooh. Mm, mm, mm.
I love it.
It's just so much so much. Yeah, I say one of the quotes that kind of caught me was in Snowfall, and there was a sentence where she wrote about this relationship between her and her mother and how it's suffocating like a beautiful quilt in the summertime. And that right there was like, that's just too much love, but the wrong kind of love. It just felt like
That's
it's,
mamas. That's mamas.
yes. And it had me thinking about myself, like, am I suffocating my babies? Or what's
Yes.
it just makes you think through some things. Like there are a lot of good snippets throughout your
Thank
book.
you.
The imagery that you have.
Thank you.
Were you always a reader or a
Always a
writer?
reader. Not always
Always
a
a reader.
writer. I did enjoy writing, but I read early and I read everything. I used to
Mm,
sit on the floor of the public library for the Jacksonville folks, the main branch downtown. My grandmother worked near there, and so she'd take me to work with her in the summer, and I would sit on the floor of the library and just read all day. And then I always hated to shop, and my mom and her friends, we would go to Regency Mall, and even when she was shopping for me, I was like, just get the clothes and I'll try them on at home. I hated shopping. And so while they shop, they would go from one end of that mall back and forth, and I would sit on the floor and I could read a whole book in the time it took them to shop. So I have always been a voracious reader, but I didn't really start writing in earnest until maybe around 2000, when my oldest daughter, which is a trip now because her professor's in the comments, she was a
Mm,
toddler and she didn't nap. And it was like the one time of the day that I just said, okay, I'm going to do something for myself that uses my brain and for something other than taking care of somebody. And then that time, expanded, and I decided, this is what I want to do. This is what
wow.
I want to do.
That's so y'all hear that. You can be a reader and a writer. You can
I
be a
think you
writer
have
and
to
a
be a
reader.
reader. I think you have to be a reader, and I tell that to people. Matt Johnson, who Crystal Dr. Temple was asking about workshops and things like that and conferences, and I went to Hurston Wright Foundation's Writers Workshop, Writers Week in
Ooh, shout out
2007.
Marita. Hey, Miss Golden.
And Matt Johnson was our workshop leader for fiction that summer, and he was very complimentary of our writer. I mean, our writing, our group was sharp. But at the end, he said, none of you have read nearly enough. And he
Mm,
could tell. And I didn't understand that fully at the time. But now, when I read people's writing, people who, want advice, I can tell. I can tell who hasn't read nearly enough because I've been there, and I
mhm.
tell them all the time, like, you got to read. There's no way around it if you want to grow as a writer.
I think it's reading a little bit of different types of book too. Everybody has their preference between
Yes,
genres, whether you like, I love historical nonfiction, but here recently, I'd say in the last couple of years, I've gotten into all different types of short stories because I can read them in between meetings and in
yes,
between
yes.
family life, and I never miss a beat. It's not like I have to start back over. I've already finished one story and I move on to the next. It's beautiful, beautiful thing. But I say this has been wonderful chatting with you. But before we go,
Likewise. Thank you.
I gotta ask, what's next? Is it another book? Is it a movie? We know about HBO. I know that's
Yes.
coming.
So with HBO Max, that's a deal to adapt for television. And I don't know, what that's going to look like. I hope I can write something that they will want to pick up. So the idea is to write a pilot. And then at the same time, I have a novel that I've been trying to write since 2007. And it's so different
Mm,
now that I don't even think I can say it's the same exact novel. But I would love to finish that draft, that first draft of that novel this year. So that's a goal. We're
okay.
already in March. And I'm always little detours. Like the short story collection was a detour from the novel.
Yeah.
And now I'm working on a couple of essays and a couple of other short stories. So it's like I need to not start anything new, finish those. It's two short stories I need to finish, and two or three essays I need to finish, and then say, okay, that's it. Now just the book.
Yeah.
That's a certain kind of discipline. And and people ask you like, oh, there's an anthology, can you contribute to this, and here are all your favorite writers who are going to be in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm learning
Yes.
to say no to things, but not that. Oh, you want me to write something and Alice Walker's going to have the forward, write the forward
Ooh.
there. So it's saying no to things to make time so that I can say yes to the things that I want to say yes to.
I
And
love
these are all good problems to have. And I
Yes, it
feel
is.
really, really blessed.
Well, if you need some beta readers, some little
Yes,
people you let me know.
I
We put
love
you
it.
right
Thank
on
you.
top.
Thank you. Yes. Beta readers, shout out to the
Yes.
readers because oh my gosh, they really make a difference. I have people in my life that's how they show up for me. And some of them aren't writers. Some of them are
Hmm.
not writers, but they're readers, but they're different kind, and they read all kinds of things. I like
Yeah.
having men who are like, this is not normally what I read, but I like this. I like to have them read my stuff because they have a
Different perspective.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely can check that out for sure. Well, before I go, I want to let all my viewers know if you didn't catch me in the beginning, I'm going to remind you where you are. You are here in Book Mecca land. This is Book Mecca. online Black bookstore and literary platform for all things Black lit, Black authors, and all book themed Black event. Black. Not just in February, but year round. So we want to
Black,
encourage
black,
and
black.
amplify. Yes. Encourage and amplify the voices of authors like Deesha everywhere. So I want to end, I always like to end with like a quote. And for whatever reason, when I was looking for a quote that I thought kind of fit or they kind of spoke to me, Nikki Giovanni just kept popping up like everywhere that I was going. She just, and I don't know if you like Nikki Giovanni,
Oh,
but
I
she is.
love Nikki Giovanni. Wait, quick. Girl Trek did a thing with her and Angela Davis, and she got
Yes,
talking.
yes.
She started saying something about Gwendolyn Brooks, and she said, you know, she could write. She was a great poet, but she couldn't cook.
I just want to be in a room with her one day. One day. I want to get the tattoos with her. I want to go out and have a drink with her.
Oh my gosh, when she said Gwendolyn Brooks couldn't cook. Okay, I'm sorry. I derailed.
Oh
Okay.
no. I think we were in
love
the same live cast with that one. I think we were there at the same time. They had I don't even remember what it was for. So many women walking everywhere at the same. That was great. But yes, well, I digress. Nikki Giovanni, I found so many different quotes, but it was one said, "You must be unintimidated by your own thoughts, because if you write with someone looking over your shoulder, you'll never write." That's how I felt reading your work. It kind of felt as if you wrote what you wanted to write.
Yes.
Here, read it,
We don't have
take
time
it,
to wait.
digest it.
We don't have time to waste to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been beautiful. Anytime you want to come back on Book Mecca, you just let me know. Maybe when the pandemic is gone, meet in person. Would love that.
Well, when the world opens up, I'm doing this all over again, and we're calling it the Hug Tour. So I'm coming to you for the Hug Tour. So
okay, I'm here. I'm ready. Come on to Texas. I will make the peach cobbler for you. Well, maybe not me. I'm not the cook.
What part of Texas are you in?
I'm in Frisco, Texas, but I'm an East Texan girl, country girl.
Okay.
So I can't cook though, but I can find somebody who can, so it'll taste right.
But you got your brown liquor. That's all I needed to know.
That I will bring. That will be there. Well, all right, guys. Thank you all for joining and tune in. This is our March Madness. So next week on the 10th, we have Jeffrey Colvin with Africaville. So y'all come on out to that and come check us out. And thank you, Deesha. If you want to learn more about Deesha, follow her, get her book. You can purchase the book on bookmaker.org. You can purchase it everywhere that Deesha has the book available. And follow her, y'all. She has amazing content and information. So thank you all. Have a blessed and wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Good night.